when the fight is over and there's not even a bruise on anybody, that prosecutor's never going to take that case to trial. There's not going to be any charges. There's nothing for him to build a story around.
I love it.
Another thing I wanted to point out too is, as I mentioned earlier, this entire video was 18 minutes long. So he had to control this person for 18 minutes. Folks, I don't know, even those of you who shoot guns, maybe shoot regularly, maybe compete. I can tell you, I've competed with pistols most of my adult life, and you can spend all day at a pistol competition, and the amount of time you're actually holding that gun out in front of you, shooting it, is maybe 60 or 90 seconds over the course of that entire day. If you were trying to hold a gun up for 18 minutes, it gets damn heavy. It's a hard thing to do. And if you don't believe me, just unload your gun at home, point it in a safe direction, and try to hold it up for 18 minutes. It's hard to do. But if you're going to hold someone for the police, it may take 18 minutes. It may take a lot longer than that. Israel here could do this all day. I mean, he's burning zero energy here.
That's great. He could have held that for 2 hours. You're right. He could hold it all day.
Another thing I wanted to mention here, too, was he decided to record himself. And people always ask me, hey, Andrew, should I do that? Should I make a recording? Should I take photos of the scene? Should I all this kind of stuff? And my answer always is, well, it depends what the recording is. If you did things right, like here, yes, then a recording is very helpful. If you do things wrong and you're recording yourself doing things wrong, then the recording is going to be used against you. The real question is not, should I record or not record? The real question is, do you know what you're supposed to be doing? Because if you do, and there's ways to do that. You can learn obviously the BJJ from Gracie University. You can learn the law of self-defense from me. If you know what you're doing, then recordings, by the way, there's always something. There's always a recording. Cameras are everywhere. Witnesses are everywhere. Then all that is in your favor. That's the position you want to be in.
There's a camera right there behind him. Is that a camera on the top
corner? It looks like it. Yep. I mean, look at the little screen just behind his head. That's almost certainly showing security camera footage, right? To alert patrons. So there's camera everywhere. Everyone carries a camera around in their pocket. There's no use of force event unless it's literally you're in an alley by yourself with the aggressor where things aren't being recorded. That's why we have all these videos on YouTube with these police events and World Star and all that kind of thing.
My only hesitation when it comes to cameras would be that if you pull out the camera and now you're not protecting your face, you're not watching your balance, it compromises your balance. Right. But he has such amazing control. He could pull out his camera. He could have drank tea right there. So it's in that case, it makes sense. But for sure, protect yourself first. And then once you're safe, to place a camera or ask somebody, hey, can you please film what's happening right now?
Right. Yeah. And it looks like he didn't call the cops himself. He had the clerk call the police. I mean, he's asked, you know what? I think he did. He called the police out in the parking lot because some of the other disruptive people had thrown a bottle of windshield washer fluid or something on his car. So he'd already called the police from out in the parking lot. But folks, I can tell you, when you call the police and there's not like a life-threatening danger happening that you're reporting, their time to show up could be a long, long, long time. It's not a priority call for them. Even here, right? It was 18 minutes before the cop showed up, and not in the middle of nowhere. I mean, he's in a 7-Eleven getting Slurpees for his kids. Still takes a long time. And that 18 minutes can be forever if things go sideways.
Because of the level of control, when the police show up, they're not confused. They can show up and they're at ease. Where if he was on top and kind of punching the guy or slapping him or choking him a little bit, the police could show up and even be slightly confused and maybe be a little bit more aggressive in breaking up the fight. Because oftentimes the police don't know the context. They don't know who attacked who. And when they get there, and there's no punches being thrown, simply someone sitting on someone, they can take their time in figuring out what's happening exactly.
Yeah, that's also a great point. The police actually never know. They never actually know what's going on. They may have been told something by the dispatcher, but we've all played the game telephone, right? Where you whisper a phrase in one person's ear and they whisper the phrase all around a circle through everybody's ear, and it comes back to you and it's a completely different phrase, right? By the time it gets back, because all the phrase gets filtered through everybody's ears and minds and their mouths. When they repeat it to somebody else, it alters. Well, whoever calls 911, that's going to a dispatcher. The dispatcher's hearing it, making a record, but maybe they're hearing it imperfectly. Maybe the information they're getting is imperfect. Then they have to pass it to the officers in the patrol car. Maybe they're hearing it imperfectly. Maybe they're recording it imperfectly. The cops are making their decisions, their actual on-the-ground decisions, based on what they see themselves. That's the information they can have the greatest degree of confidence in. And if they see one dude beating the crap out of another dude, that looks like the aggressor to them. And it's likely to be a much more violent police encounter than would be the case here. In fact, one of the videos we have, we see a situation where it looks like it goes bad precisely because the situation is misinterpreted. All right, let's see if I had anything else I wanted to touch on there. What is the name for this technique, by the way? Is there a technical name for it? This the way he's trapped the other arm against the guy's neck with his own arm?
Yeah, the other arm being inside there is a bonus. Even if that arm wasn't in there, that his bottom, we could call it's his right arm, right? Yep. The one that's wrapped around the neck, that's the more important one that keeps the man from being able to turn and face Idris. And he could potentially, if he faces him, he can now start to push him off and reach for his face. So it kind of keeps his arms out of the way. We call it twisting arm control. It's also been referred to as like a gift wrap control. And if what Idris could use his left hand that's holding the tricep right there to really do some damage and strike if he wanted to. And then the follow-up position would be the bottom man rolling to his knees or to his stomach, exposing his neck. So it's a very common position that people have done in jiu-jitsu challenge matches over the years. It's a way to get the person who's, on their back and pronate them, turn them over and take their back, which then you could apply techniques like the, vascular neck restraint, or known as the rear naked choke, which is a very safe technique, but also can be applied incorrectly and therefore be very dangerous. But that's kind of where that fight would go next if the top person wanted to throw some punches.